But it's a weird feeling because this is one of the first moments in history where there's a strong case to be made not to open source software. This is when the software has become too dangerous.
Yeah, but it's not the first time that we didn't want to open source technology.
Yeah. Is there something to be said about how to get the release of such systems right, like GPT-4 and GPT-5? So OpenAI went through a pretty rigorous effort for several months. You could say it could be longer, but nevertheless, it's longer than you would have expected, of trying to test the system to see like what are the ways it goes wrong, to make it very difficult for people, somewhat difficult for people to ask things. How do I make a bomb for $1? Or how do I say I hate a certain group on Twitter in a way that doesn't get me blocked from Twitter, banned from Twitter? Those kinds of questions.
Yeah.
So you basically use the system to do harm.
Yeah.
Is there something you could say about ideas you have just on looking, having thought about this problem of AI safety, how to release such system, how to test such systems when you have them inside the company?
Yeah. So a lot of people say that the two biggest risks from large language models are it's spreading disinformation, harmful information of various types, and second, being used for offensive cyber weapon design. I think those are not the two greatest threats. They're very serious threats, and it's wonderful that people are trying to mitigate them. A much bigger elephant in the room is how this is just going to disrupt our economy in a huge way, obviously, and maybe take away a lot of the most meaningful jobs. And an even bigger one is the one we spent so much time talking about here, that this becomes the bootloader for the more powerful AI.
Write code, connected to the internet, manipulate humans.
Yeah. And before we know it, we have something else, which is not at all a large language model, that looks nothing like it, but which is way more intelligent and capable and has goals. And that's the elephant in the room. And obviously, no matter how hard any of these companies have tried, that's not something that's easy for them to verify with large language models. And the only way to really lower that risk a lot would be to not let, for example, never let it read any code, not train on that, and not put it into an API, and not give it access to so much information about how to manipulate humans. So, but that doesn't mean you still can't make a ton of money on them. We're going to just watch now this coming year, right? Microsoft is rolling out the new Office suite where you go into Microsoft Word and give it a prompt, and it writes the whole text for you, and then you edit it. And then you're like, oh, give me a PowerPoint version of this, and it makes it. And now take the spreadsheet and blah, blah. And, all of those things, I think, are, you can debate the economic impact of it and whether society is prepared to deal with this disruption. But those are not the things that's not the elephant of the room that keeps me awake at night for wiping out humanity. And I think that's the biggest misunderstanding we have. A lot of people think that we're scared of, like, automatic spreadsheets. That's not the case. That's not what Eliezer was freaked out about either.
Is there, in terms of the actual mechanism of how AI might kill all humans, so something you've been outspoken about, you've talked about a lot, is it autonomous weapon systems? So the use of AI in war.
Mm-hmm.
Is that one of the things that still you carry concern for as these systems become more and more powerful?
I carry concern for it, not that all humans are going to get killed by slaughter bots, but rather just as an express route into Orwellian dystopia, where it becomes much easier for very few to kill very many, and therefore it becomes very easy for very few to dominate very many, right? AI, if you want to know how AI could kill all people, just ask yourself, we humans have driven a lot of species extinct. How did we do it? We were smarter than them. Usually we didn't do it even systematically by going around one after the other and stepping on them or shooting them or anything like that. We just chopped down their habitat because we needed it for something else. In some cases, we did it by putting more carbon dioxide in the atmosphere because of some reason that those animals didn't even understand, and now they're gone, right? So if you're in AI and you just want to figure something out, then you decide, we just really need this space here to build more compute facilities. If that's the only goal it has, we are just the sort of accidental roadkill along the way. And you could totally imagine, maybe this oxygen is kind of annoying because it causes more corrosion, so let's get rid of the oxygen. And good luck surviving after that. I'm not particularly concerned that they would want to kill us just because that would be like a goal in itself. When we've driven a number of the elephant species extinct, right? It wasn't because we didn't like elephants. What the basic problem is, you just don't want to cede control over your planet to some other more intelligent entity that doesn't share your goals. It's that simple. So which brings us to another key challenge which AI safety researchers have been grappling with for a long time. Like, how do you make AI, first of all, understand our goals, and then adopt our goals, and then retain them as they get smarter, right? Mm-hmm. And all three of those are really hard, right? Like a human child, first, they're just not smart enough to understand our goals. They can't even talk. And then eventually they're teenagers and understand our goals just fine, but they don't share.
Yeah.
But there's fortunately a magic phase in the middle where they're smart enough to understand our goals and malleable enough that we can hopefully, with good parenting, and teach them right from wrong, and instill good goals in them, right? And so those are all tough challenges with computers. And then, even if you teach your kids good goals when they're little, they might outgrow them too. And that's a challenge for machines that keep improving. So these are a lot of hard challenges we're up for. But I don't think any of them are insurmountable. The fundamental reason why Eliezer looked so depressed when I last saw him was because he felt there just wasn't enough time.
Not that it was unsolvable.
Correct.
There's just not enough time.
He was hoping that humanity was going to take this threat more seriously, so we would have more time.
Yeah.
And now we don't have more time. That's why the open letter is calling for more time.
But even with time, the AI alignment problem seems to be really difficult.
Oh, yeah. But it's also the most worthy problem, the most important problem for humanity to ever solve. Because if we solve that one, Lex, that aligned AI can help us solve all the other problems.
Because it seems like it has to have constant humility about its goal, constantly question the goal. Because as you optimize towards a particular goal and you start to achieve it, that's when you have the unintended consequences, all the things you mentioned about. So how do you enforce and code a constant humility as your ability become better and better and better and better?
Professor Stuart Russell at Berkeley, who's also one of the driving forces behind this letter, he has a whole research program about this. I think of it as AI humility, exactly, although he calls it inverse reinforcement learning and other nerdy terms. But it's about exactly that. Instead of telling the AI, here's this goal, go optimize the bejesus out of it, you tell it, okay, do what I want you to do, but I'm not going to tell you right now what it is I want you to do. You need to figure it out. So then you give it an incentive to be very humble and keep asking you questions along the way. Is this what you really meant? Is this what you wanted? And, the other thing I tried didn't work. Seemed like it didn't work out right. Should I try it differently? What's nice about this is it's not just philosophical mumbo jumbo. It's theorems and technical work that with more time, I think you can make a lot of progress. And there are a lot of brilliant people now working on AI safety. And we just need to give them a bit more time.
But also not that many relative to the scale of the problem.
No, exactly. There should be, at least just like every university worth its name has some cancer research going on in its biology department, right? Every university that does computer science should have a real effort in this area, and it's nowhere near that. This is something I hope is changing now, thanks to the GPT-4, right? So I think if there's a silver lining to what's happening here, even though I think many people would wish it would have been rolled out more carefully, is that this might be the wake-up call that humanity needed to really stop fantasizing about this being 100 years off, and stop fantasizing about this being completely controllable and predictable, because it's so obvious it's not predictable. Why is it that I think it was ChatGPT that tried to persuade a journalist, or was it GPT-4, to divorce his wife? It was not because the engineers who built it was like, let's put this in here and screw a little bit with people. They hadn't predicted it at all. They built a giant black box, trained to predict the next word, and got all these emergent properties, and oops, it did this. I think this is a very powerful wake-up call, and anyone watching this who's not scared, I would encourage them to just play a bit more with these tools. They're out there now, like GPT-4, and so wake-up call is first step. Once you've woken up, then got to slow down a little bit the risky stuff to give a chance to everyone who's woken up to catch up with this on the safety front.
What's interesting is, MIT, that's computer science, but in general, but let's just even say computer science curriculum. How does the computer science curriculum change now?
Oh,
you mentioned programming.
Yeah.
Like, why would you be, when I was coming up, programming as a prestigious position,
Mm-hmm.
like, why would you be dedicating crazy amounts of time to become an excellent programmer? Like, the nature of programming is fundamentally changing.
The nature of our entire education system is completely turned on its head.
Has anyone been able to load that in and think about, because it's really turning.
I mean, some English professors, some English teachers are beginning to really freak out now.
Yeah.
Right? They give an essay assignment and they get back all this fantastic prose, like this is the style of Hemingway, and then they realize they have to completely rethink. And even, just like we stopped teaching writing script. Is that what you say in English?
Yeah, handwritten, yeah.
Yeah, when everybody started typing, so much of what we teach our kids today.
Yeah. I mean, that's everything is changing, and it's changing it's changing very quickly, and so much of us understanding how to deal with the big problems of the world is through the education system. And if the education system is being turned on its head, then what's next? It feels like having these kinds of conversations is essential to try to figure it out, and everything's happening so rapidly. I don't think there's even, speaking of safety, what the broad AI safety defined, I don't think most universities have courses on AI safety.
No.
It's like a philosophy seminar.
And I'm an educator myself, so it pains me to say this, but I feel our education right now is completely obsoleted by what's happening. You put a kid into first grade, and then you're envisioning and then they're going to come out of high school 12 years later, and you've already pre-planned now what they're going to learn when you're not even sure if there's going to be any world left to come out to. Clearly, you need to have a much more opportunistic education system that keeps adapting itself very rapidly as society readapts. The skills that were really useful when the curriculum was written, I mean, how many of those skills are going to get you a job in 12 years? I mean, seriously.